Indigenous people in Taiwan just celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day on August 1st, and August 9th is the International Indigenous Day, named by the United Nations. To mark this special day, here is a special series on the history of the Indigenous people struggle to gain recognition. First of all, we will take a look at how Taiwanese Indigenous peoples are fighting for recognition and the origin of Taiwan's Indigenous Peoples Day.
台湾原住民学弟申请会，我们已经正式的成立。
On December 29, 1984, during the martial law period, the Taiwan Association for Indigenous Rights Promotion, TAIRP, was officially established. It is also the first group in Taiwan to name the indigenous people. Later on, it is often referred to as the Indigenous Rights Association and has become the leading force pushing for recognition and renaming of the indigenous peoples.
我们已经正式的成立。
Before the association was established, we can see from the draft of its charter that the group had considered naming the indigenous the mountain people, but in order to justify the indigenous people's various campaigns demanding rights and recognition, the group decided to use indigenous people after many heated discussions.
以前用过的山胞、高山族。
We were called mountain people or mountain tribes, but such names were forced upon us by other peoples without our consent or without first consulting us. That's ridiculous. That's why we decided to name ourselves the way we want.
这是很荒谬的，所以我们那个时候决定要自己称自己是什么。
Taiwanese indigenous peoples have been called Fan, a Mandarin term outsiders, during the Ming and Qing dynasties. Japanese colonial government also named them the Fan person or mountain person. After the Kuomintang took control of Taiwan, they were called mountain people and divine compatriots and mountain compatriots. Rebound, the colonial named indigenous people to degrade them. In stop to this, effort seeking recognition was stepped up in 1991. Apart from being more active, the military strategy also changed the government to raise the status of people as its people, and its member marched to Yangmingshan, where the National Assembly was running.
The name of mountain compatriots came through amending the Constitution. This was important. The request amendment of the Constitution in 1991 was probably our most important milestone in pushing the government to recognize us as indigenous people.
In 1991, TAIRP representatives handed over a statement to the National Assembly requesting the government to drop the mountain compatriots and plains compatriots, the words used to refer to the indigenous peoples in the constitution under the Kuomintang, and replace them with Taiwan indigenous people. The National Assembly reacted coldly, saying it would take the recommendations to the government for discussions. In 1992, the KMT's Central Committee rejected the recommended name and decided to replace mountain compatriots with early inhabitants. This enraged TAIRP. On May 21st of the same year, TAIRP petitioned to the National Assembly asking an indigenous article to be added to the Constitution and stating a name change from mountain compatriots to natives. But the result on May 26th was still a disappointment. The indigenous college students painfully witnessed the vote. During its special session in 1992, the National Assembly worried that naming the people as indigenous people would hint that they were landowners and internal conflicts would erupt if the indigenous peoples tried to reclaim their land. So the National Assembly passed the so-called Mountain Compatriots Clause. Lin Zheng-er from the Amis tribe and Gao Zhenzhi from the Baiwan tribe were both the members of the National Assembly. During the one-party era, these indigenous assembly members had to compromise.
We were all members of the Kuomintang party. The political environment at that time made it impossible to pass any laws which did not gain the support of the majority of party representatives. The reason we didn't support the amendments which were proposed by the then opposition Democratic Progressive Party was that we thought President Lee Donghui was very supportive of the recognition campaign of the indigenous peoples.
The second attempt to have the constitution amended still failed. efforts to make the change moved on despite previous defeats. Under pressure from the DPP on April 10, 1994, then President Lee became the first leader to use indigenous people instead of the 50-year-old official denomination of Mountain Patriots at an indigenous culture conference convened by the Executive Yuan in Pingtung. On July 28 that year, the National Assembly passed the amendment to replace Mountain Compatriots with indigenous people with a slim margin of 1 vote. On August 1, 1994, the President promulgated the new law and recognized the status of indigenous peoples in the Constitution. TITV Weekly.